think what a lot of men have a problem with, like, the boss babe thing and why the boss babe thing isn't appealing is because we kind of have this expectation that he should be okay with being second to a career, where, like, your boss that you work for will replace you tomorrow, and your man will not. I think that's what men have a very big problem with when it comes to, well, you know, I want this high status profession. He's like, okay, well, how much am I going to matter? Because there's also been, and this would be anecdotal, right? But there's been conversations where men have asked their women to quit their jobs because it's dysfunctional with the family. There's something going wrong. And the woman says, like, no, absolutely, I will not quit my job. So you're literally choosing, you know, your boss who would replace you over him. And that's not okay. And I don't think your job should come first as a man either. But I think oftentimes, and because family should be first, but like if you're a man and you have to deal with being in this high status profession to create that umbrella of financial security, like, yeah, it's okay if your family's on the back burner because you're not truly on the back burner for your career. You're going through that so that you can benefit them. Like, what man wants to be second to a career? Like, these companies don't care about us. Like,
I don't think he's like second to a
really circumstantial kind of thing. And
it's not that circumstantial.
Like, I'm not second in my job. Like, I can't. No one's gonna. I mean, of course, everyone's somewhat replaceable, but it's like I feel like you're just kind of spewing like these words, but they don't really have any meaning.
So
I can give you the data.
I have a question.
I can give it
Is
to
your
you.
answer to all of this that women shouldn't work? Or that, you know, I should quit my job because, I mean, my dad's not paying my rent. Like, someone's got to do that.
Attorney, hello?
Yeah,
No.
he raised me right. He, you know, he also said,
like, first of all, you said that this is like circumstantial, right? And there's also like broad swaths of data where like these are things that are going to happen to women. They're already happening. Like when we're talking about making women equal to men in the marketplace, in the job marketplace, it sounds good. There are unintended consequences. One unintended consequence is like 50% of women are projected to be single in 2030. No, 45% of women from ages 25 to 44, right? So
because of their job?
No, because of being past the Industrial Revolution and because of economic mobility, right? That this is the unintended consequence of the boss babe culture. That's one aspect. And then we have this other aspect, 50.1% of women in the UK are childless by age 30. That's another statistic. So like we've made it to this point where like we've made ourselves completely equal to men. And it's like that sounds really good in theory. But if you're going to be like a mom and have children, you're going to have to make compromises and structure your life differently. And a lot of women, like, they're not getting this. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying like you need to quit your job and you need to stay home, right? But we need to like plan and act accordingly. And putting a career ahead of your man is not a good way to get there because he's probably going to need to cover you. Like a lot of this gender equality stuff sounds really cool and like all this independence. A lot of women who say this have not reproduced. I have very much needed to depend on my husband in my pregnancy, first trimester, last trimester. Any woman who's had a child knows this, but we want to pretend like it doesn't exist. And I think that the reason why we have these like made up constructs, because, you know, like everything's a social construct, is because we just are not seeing people get married and build families.
No one is pretending like it doesn't exist, and no one said that they would put their job over their husband ever.
Right.
No one said that.
Okay, like
I feel like that's another thing that you're kind of just making up. Like I bet every
I think you have
person
super
here
valid
could
points.
I understand what you're saying, but I feel like every person here would say, of course I would choose my family and my husband over my job any day. And I think that your idea of this boss babe thing is like what you're making up in your head, but you're not considered a boss babe. You don't have a job. You don't, right? You don't.
I mean, I do work, but that's like it's relative.
You know what I mean?
Like,
income. But I mean, like you don't have like a traditional job. Like, so I feel like you kind of can't really speak on it because you're not in. I understand that you have a baby and you have a husband and you're in those shoes, but I don't think that like.
Okay.
You're trying to speak on the boss babe thing, but you don't really fully get it.
Like I'm giving you objective truths that I can prove. I also have them on my phone. I will give them to you immediately after the show. Like these are the consequences.
I believe you. That's okay.
These are the consequences of us putting careers ahead of men. Like that's the
Who's
thing.
doing
so,
that?
well,
Hold on. Like women are putting careers ahead of men to the point that they would rather have that job than be with a man.
Then
that's
you don't
crazy.
have to do that.
Huh?
Then you don't have to do that.
Like, can you explain?
If you don't want to do that, then don't do that.
If you don't want to
put your job over your husband, then don't do that. I mean, you don't even have a corporate job. You know what I mean? And I think that you're saying, well, women do that. Where? Who? When?
This is what I'm saying. My subjective experience does not influence the numbers that I'm giving you. This is like to the point, this is the breakdown of the nuclear family. And this was all because we're talking about like careers and men taking a second seat to careers, right? This is the projection. Like there are big banks and companies that are investing in like wine and cat food and stuff because they know that there's going to be a bunch of us that are single, right? So like what you guys are saying, your career is important. Just don't forget that your man and your family should come before it.
Okay,
corporate
thank you.
America
Thank you.
will get rid of you tomorrow.
Thank you so much for reinstating that, because I believe that we all agree with you, and I think that that's why we're becoming disengaged, is because we all agree with you, and there's just so much we can hear about it. We all agree with you.
Okay, let's move it along a little bit. I'll just add, but generally speaking, I would say that most women, if I did what most women do on a date, like kind of be held back and silent for a bit initially, if I didn't start the conversation, it would honestly just be dead silent.
If you're dating the most awkward girl ever, yeah,
Nah.
but like
No, like
Most
a
women
lot
are-
of women are just like bad at conversation. Remember when
Totally.
you remember when we were talking about like, you know, like do you have to dumb yourself down, right?
Yeah.
Or remember when we were talking about like, well, no, I think like men do like smart women. Like they'll be in relationships with women who provide absolutely nothing to a conversation. They'll do it, and it doesn't sound good. And my assumption is that you guys are all in college, right? Yeah, you're already like a minority of the population. When we're talking about very regular things that happen in dating, a lot of this stuff isn't going to stick to you. Especially like, what was your major?
Entrepreneurship.
Yeah, that's not even I don't even think that's a common thing that women major in. Like, so you're like a unicorn. A lot of what you say is not going to make sense when it comes to like modern dating, right? Because you're out of the norm. Does that make sense? So like most chicks, a lot of the DMs I get, and I get them from single men who are dating all the time, day in, day out. They just don't carry a conversation. And the guy's kind of sitting there kind of like, well, geez, like how do I even become engaging? You know what I mean?
Totally. I think that most girls are super bland because we have messages being sent out that's like, guys don't care about smart girls. And sure, maybe they don't,
different.
but women, we should still be ambitious to a point that we want to make ourselves smarter and better people and good company and fun to be around and smart, seasoned, like... I think that all plays in. And when we're talking about IQ, I don't necessarily need to make more money than you, but I still should be smart and I should know how to carry a conversation, because I think that's so much more valuable than a degree or whatever.
Like, okay, I'm gonna say this. Most people are so dumb they can't carry a conversation, man and woman.
100%.
Right? However, men are dating men that are typically smarter than them, right? So it's like they're relying on him to be entertainment. And it's a really boring and stressful experience for a man at the same time. Like boring in terms of he's not being intellectually stimulated at all. And then it's stressful because he has to impress her. Like,
so what's your point to all of this?
So my point to all this is you don't understand that you're a unicorn. If you tell me your life story, I've heard like enough about you already. You are like a very, 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 very small percentage of women. But when you talk about dating, you give a lot of your subjective experience, and there's credit to that. But
Okay.
I'm telling you, like most women suck at conversation, which is fine because most men don't care that you're smart. That's great. You just have to be like beautiful, sweet, and pleasant. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? You be like a high charging woman. You do that, and you'll probably be with a high charging man, and that'll be like a super power couple thing. But that's just not going to be what most men and women